Hello, everyone. This is the Differential Podcast here with myself, AB, and I've got my co host with me, Dr. JP. How's it going, mate?
Hey, AB, how's it going? I'm pretty good.
So, today we're going to be talking about The Witcher Netflix Series 2 show review, I guess. It's not technically a movie, but that's what we're going to be talking about today. JP and I have been watching the series over the last month, give or take, and we finally just wrapped up. I think, JP, you finished it up last week, mate, and I've finished watching it just after you.
Yeah, I think last week it's all been a blur. Holiday season. Can't remember
Yeah.
much.
Uh, yeah. Okay, so let's just dive right into it. And of course, before we go ahead, just want to announce that this is not going to be a spoiler-free review. So spoilers ahead. You've been warned. Let's do
Yeah.
this. All right. So, mate, JP, tell me about how you got into The Witcher. Are you a casual fan? Did you get into it through the games, or did you just log into it from Netflix?
Yeah, I'm a super casual fan. I know nothing about the books, next to
Okay.
nothing. And yeah, I do know the games exist. I think I tried to play it one time, didn't really get into it. I hear it's a great game, so I should probably give it another shot. But I did know of the game. And then I
Yeah.
heard that, they're going to make a Netflix series out of it. And
Yeah.
I'm a pretty big fan of anything medieval fantasy. I love Game of Thrones, love Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I've been watching Wheel of Time as well. So this seemed like the natural thing to get into. And then I thought season one was okay.
Yeah.
I thought it could have been a bit better, certain things here or there. But then season two, which we've recently finished, and my overall impression is that season two was much better than season one, and I really, really enjoyed it. What about you?
Um, I came to know about The Witcher through The Witcher 2 game. I believe it was called The Assassin of Kings or something like that. I played it until a fair bit. I do enjoy the odd RPG sometimes, but it has to play a little bit crisply. I just felt like that game in particular it's just a lot of like lore and a lot of like cutscenes, and it just didn't play as crisply as I wanted. It was a little floaty in certain areas, so I kind of gave up on it, mostly due to time constraints and what have you. But yeah, I kind of like was surprised that they decided to do a Witcher show, and I was actually really surprised they managed to get Henry Cavill to do it. But in hindsight, after watching season two, I think he just kind of seamlessly gets into the Geralt of Rivia character. And I think JP, you mentioned this to me, mate, about Henry Cavill's geek side. Uh,
Yeah,
if
he's
you
a
want
huge
to
geek,
enlighten us a little bit about that one, yeah.
which I didn't know about actually before this.
Yeah.
Before kind of looking into The Witcher, he's a massive geek. He's read all the books apparently. So he actually specifically went out and auditioned for this role, really wanting and knowing the character, and
Right.
he's also played the games. He not only The Witcher, he's also played World of Warcraft. He's played Warhammer, and he also does like painting Warhammer miniatures or whatever. And yeah, I've seen a couple of his interviews on The Witcher, and he's always talking about how much he loves the character, how much he loves the books. And he goes on to say that he really wants to stay true to the original source material, which is great. So overall,
Right.
he does seem like the perfect actor to be, doing this role, and he's done a great job in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's really good for stars not to be pretentious. I mean, Henry Cavill doesn't come across like a very pretentious guy. He just accepts his geekdom, like I kind of embrace my geek side whenever the opportunity presents itself. So it's kind of cool to see that as well. It just makes him more
So
accessible and amenable to his fans.
I gotta add one thing here. Like I've
Yeah.
so watched a couple of his interviews, these these Hollywood interviews where
Oh gosh.
they're fawning to the actors and stuff. So
Hmm.
he inevitably brings up that he's a geek and he's not afraid to talk about it, which is great.
Great. Yeah.
But the interview always gets awkward, and they like all these people, they're not used to this, so they're like silent or not saying anything or looking weird. Because normally, I guess gamers don't have the best reputation out there. I don't know why, but a lot of people game. But it gets super awkward when he's talking about this, and
Yeah.
it's hilarious for me. I'm like, wow, because
And
none of this ever
those
comes up.
and those of you out there who say they don't game or have never gamed a day in their life are lying.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's played
It's fun,
something or
mate.
the other, right? And yeah, it's a fun, it's a good time pass, and actually, it's better for you cognitively as
Hmm.
opposed to, even though we're going to talk about watching a TV show, it's better for you than just mindlessly watching TV.
There's worse things, mate, than gaming. Hashtag reality TV.
Oh yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, power to him, mate. Like he's done a great job. I know he gets a lot of flack for Superman and all that bullshit. And sometimes rightly so, because I've seen this way too many times where you have good actors getting terrible scripts and the plan not going according to what they
wait.
wrote.
You're telling me you didn't love that CGI mustache
Oh, mate,
or
if
not, or
they
lack thereof?
listen to me. All they needed to do to make stupid Batman v Superman a success was to not CGI away that mustache. Because I will fight anybody to the ends of the earth saying, listen, man, that mustache from Mission Impossible 6 Fallout was absolutely on point. Fight me on this. That was amazing.
Yeah,
That
that's
was the
fine,
best
but
part of the
like
whole movie.
that's fine, but like, do you really want to see a mustache, twirling Superman? That's a
I
bit
didn't say it has
ridiculous.
to be mustache twirling. Just, keep it. Like, why do we need to like get rid of it? Wait, it wasn't Batman v Superman. It was League. It was Justice League, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It
All of
was. It
those
was
were
Justice
terrible.
League. Come on, man. We get a Superman in a black suit with a mustache. How amazing could that have been? In fact, I'm going to go one better. I'm going to say The Witcher should have had a mustache this season too. That would have
No,
been
no,
absolutely yes. Please,
terrible. Don't, if
like,
Witcher folks are listening, do not ignore
mate,
this advice.
mate. Look at Vesemir. Vesemir has a great mustache. He's got a
Okay,
handlebar.
yeah, okay. Vesemir, it suits him, but like that's he never had a mustache in the books or
He
in the
has a
game.
beard in the games. Come on,
A
you haven't
beard,
played
okay,
number
beard
three.
to me, beard and mustache are two different things.
What's so bad about just having a mustache? A big fuck off juicy mustache from the 70s
There's
is
nothing
exactly
wrong
what you
with that
need.
as long as it fits your character.
That's fine. It's fine, huh? It's
Okay,
fine. He can go
send
away.
in that recommendation. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Like, okay, I'm not being silly. I'm genuinely being like earnest and saying, could could that have been a good, option to have, like a Witcher with a big fuck off mustache, Aussie style.
Oh my
So
God, I don't even want to think about this. All right.
yeah.
Let's get back on topic here.
Yeah, man. So yeah, season two. All right. So give us, JP, give us your take on the story for season two, and what your general impression was of what you watched.
Yeah, so season two kind of picks off or starts back up from right for where season one kind of ended. That big battle that happens.
Gordon, yeah.
Yeah, and so we kind of pick up from there, and we see that Yennefer has been captured by a crew of Nilfgaard
Hmm.
survivors,
Right.
and Frigella, her mage counterpart, is kind of holding her hostage and taking her back, trying to take her back to Nilfgaard, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
so we see it from two parts though. We see the one where Fringilla and the Nilfgaardians have Yennefer, but the other side actually thinks she's dead. So Geralt and everybody
right.
associated with the mages, they fear Yennefer has died, having consumed too much of magic, or actually using fire magic as it were. So it's thought she kind of died in the battle. So
Right. And what actually happens is that she stays alive, she's alive, but she actually loses her powers.
mhm,
So if I'm understanding, in this world, fire magic is a very special thing, and it's forbidden basically by the mage order to
yeah,
use it. And if you do end up using it, it can lead to these, unexpected effects. Where in
yeah.
this case, she loses her abilities. And I think in this world, the magic itself is described as chaos,
Yes, that's right. That's
right?
actually a cool way of putting a different spin on the whole age-old, oh my gosh, it's magic. How did you do this? It's magic. It's chaos. I kind of like that. It has a
Yeah.
sinister feel attached to it.
Yeah, and then you gotta try to find a way to control
Right.
that chaos, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the starting point of the season.
Mhm.
And I think eventually what happens is that we are introduced to a new faction called the Elves. So these are basically a race of
Mhm.
people that have been on this in this world called a continent even before the humans arrived.
Yeah.
So they're, I think, together with the gnomes and the dwarfs, they're known as the elder races,
Yeah.
and they were here before the humans. And once the humans arrived, they kind of pushed out all these previous races and took over and established all their kingdoms,
Yeah.
like the Nilfgaard, all the northern kingdoms, whose names I can't remember because there are way too many of them.
It's just Nilfgaard and the other side, right?
I just call them the northern
Northern
kingdoms.
kingdoms. Fair enough, mate. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think it's kind of implied like they're the elder races are kind of like the indigenous or the aboriginal population of the continent, which is kind of again a cool spin or a cool take on modern themes. So I see them doing a lot of that where, you have these like allegories worked into a fantasy world where, you have persecution of an elder race or like an aboriginal race, which we talk about all the time now in pop culture, or not pop culture, but like in general culture and current events. So, you can associate with it, and I think it just adds that layer of authenticity to the
So,
franchise.
yeah, I wanted. That's an interesting point. I want to mention one thing. So, I'm
Yeah.
doing a bit of research on the author, and supposedly these books. The author is like a Polish author.
Yeah.
So supposedly these books are kind of an allegory on post-war Eastern Europe, like during the Cold War era.
Okay. Wow.
So
Right.
there's some themes, etc., from that time in that region. So that was interesting to learn about.
Yep. And so we find out that most of this season revolves around Princess Cyrilla of Sintra, I believe is the name. And Siri is what her nickname ends up, what she ends up being called by everybody. Um, and yeah, she becomes a central character to season two. So it's mostly the season revolves around all these different factions. So you have the elves, you have the Nilfgaardians, you have the Northern Kingdoms, you actually even have the Witchers, and the main antagonist of season two, all kind of vying for Ciri because she becomes sort of like this key character who can turn the balance of every faction that lays claim to her. So it kind of becomes like this interesting tug of war from about 5 or 6 sides. And Geralt is sort of like the surrogate father figure. So he's been entrusted with her guardianship. And interesting. So, I mean, season one, we see Geralt as a bit of a loner, kind of takes kind of like a mercenary, for lack of a better word. And then suddenly we have this sort of like transformation to an unlikely father figure, because Geralt doesn't come across as the most well-adjusted person.
Well,
So
I mean, witchers are mercenaries, right? They go around killing monsters for
yeah,
coin, which is basically being a mercenary. And he's a very reluctant kind of
yeah,
protector of Ciri. He never really wanted this role. It just got kind of put
yeah,
upon him. but now he really understand. They bonded. They
Yeah.
bond throughout the season, and he really understands why she's so special. And he essentially takes her under his wing, and he wants to train her,
Mhm.
and to get her ready for the oncoming onslaught that she's going to face, because
Yeah.
seemingly everybody and their mother is after her.
Yep.
um, yeah, and I think you mentioned the main antagonist of this season, so maybe
Yes.
let's
Let's
get
get
into
into
that.
that. Absolutely. I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, so the main antagonist. So what we see come out is that Francesca, which is the leader of the elves, Yennefer and Frigella, they find some sort of tomb, and they
So, well, it happens when they get captured by the elves because they kind of wander in from the
yeah,
wild.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
kind of
So
like,
when they come together, yeah.
yeah, a wall after the battle, and they get captured by a traveling band of elves. And Francesca, the leader of the elves, leads them into this tomb because she's following visions of some prophecy
Yeah,
to
by the
save her
way,
people.
let's add one more thing here, one
Hmm.
more piece of context. The elves, again, elder
Right,
race.
of
One thing
course.
to add is that they are pretty much being destroyed, and they haven't had a true born elf child
Yeah,
in years or ages or
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah, a decade, I think.
So that's what she's after. So all three of these women are after something specific.
Yeah.
Um, so Yennefer is after, she wants to get her power back, her chaos back.
Hmm.
Francesca wants to have a child, a true elven child, and then Frigilla wants to prove herself to the leader of Nilfgaard.
Right.
So that's what because I mean, she just oversaw defeat, so she wants to find a way to get back into the good books of the leader of Nilfgaard.
Which we don't know as of yet, by the way. It's just that it's just referred to as the king or
The Emir or something, right?
yeah, well that's his name. They call him the Emir, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's just call him the king of Emperor of It's Emperor of Nilfgaard.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, yeah, so that's Virgilla's motivation. So all three of these women have some sort of motivation,
Right.
thing that they're aiming for in this season, and then they go to this whatever tomb
Right.
area,
And it
right?
ends up becoming a portal to a weird forest. It leads to a forest in the night or something, and
Yeah.
there's a hut. And yeah, mate. Really interesting things start to happen. By the way, just before I move a little forward, a little bit further, I just want to point out that it's a very Jews analogy, like a Jews in the desert kind of folklore. You know, the whole the historical persecution of of the Jewish people.
You mean the elves?
The elves are,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's very allegorical to that particular historical narrative, and you know, I think I think it also makes sense in a post-war sense, um, Israel and everything. So, yeah, so they end up Fringilla, Yennefer, and Francesca end up finding themselves in this weird forest with this hut on chicken legs. I mean, obviously, if anybody
Actually,
has played, yeah.
it's not chicken legs in this.
Oh, it's yeah, like reptile legs or something,
It's a
isn't it? Basilisk,
basilisk
yeah,
legs in this
legs.
case. But yeah, I do see. Yeah, go on. Finish your reference though.
I was just gonna say, like, if anybody's played the recent Tomb Raider game, or if you've had any contact with Russian folklore, it's been very prominent these days. But obviously, it's a Baba Yaga reference, the well-known Russian
So
children's tale. Yeah,
so apparently it's not just Russian. It's I think it's just a whole Slavic
yeah,
tale or it's part of the Slavic culture. So maybe I'm not sure if it's just Russian.
yeah. Maybe our listeners can chime in if they heard like tales of it outside the former USSR or Russia currently. So reach out to us, let us know, because it's fascinating to know how these things kind of like they're adopted by one country or one region and then they're made popular, but other versions of it do exist elsewhere in the world. So we'd be very interested to know about that. But yeah, so we're introduced to the main antagonist called Voltaith Mir, or Deathless Mother, I believe, which I just thought is a fantastic name. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a cool
and
name.
and she's absolutely all powerful and very, very manipulative and extremely creepy. Like I that the whole mindfuck sequence with Francesca, Fringilla, and Yennefer each being confronted with what they want the most. So basically, the Deathless Mother is sort of like coercing them to make a deal with the devil, a pact. Um, for to what end initially we do not know, but that's what the game is, and it's interesting to see her trying to trick slash tempt them with these offers. So
Yeah.
they do a great job with the opening episode, mate. Like they lay out the motivations and what's going to come to pass in the stories, in the subsequent episodes, I should say. And I thought it was a much tighter season, like in terms of its scripting. Like the story didn't jump around all over the place like it did in season one, where it was kind of hard to follow all these new names and factions, and
Yeah,
you're trying to,
especially if you're coming in brand new as
yeah.
a total casual, not having played the
Mhm.
games or read the books, it got very confusing in season
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah,
It's much more straightforward in this season.
yeah. No, and yeah, I really liked how they handled it. I mean, I just felt like they had so many more good ideas for this season. Like I really have to say the budget and the production cost seems so much higher in general. It didn't seem like they spent all their money hiring good actors for this, that which was the case in season one. I thought the cast kind of carried the show more than the environments and the CG and everything. But this time around, mate, I think the budget went around really well. Obviously, it has everything to do with the success of the games and the first season of The Witcher, but it just looked like a better finished product, didn't it? More coherent as well.
Yeah, it did definitely more expansive. Yeah, it
Hmm.
seemed like they're showing us more of the world.
Yeah.
The yeah on the good CGI. Let's talk about that
Oh yeah.
episode where they meet Gerald's old friend. What's his name? Neru Chellan?
Nivellen.
Nevellin.
Yeah.
The man with the boar face.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's our friend from Game of Thrones, Tormund Wolfsbane, the
yeah,
actor.
the
I
actor.
can't remember the actor's name right now, but it'll come to me.
He's just known as Tormund to me. Um, yeah, so he did a great
Yeah,
job.
he's
Great,
awesome.
great acting. Loved it. The CGI was incredible. It wasn't off-putting. Yeah, we've talked previously about how Hollywood gets CGI totally wrong these days.
Mm.
I think this was a great example of good CGI that really worked, and it really made this whole scene play out quite brilliantly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, um, I am very, very hard on CGI, and you know, I think I think we kind of let some of that slip in the last one of our last little podcast clips, but I thought the CG on Nivellen was amazing, mate. Like I usually don't toss this word around casually, but I think the way they animated the facial features and stuff was really well done, because every time he was on screen, I could see the light in his eyes. Like it looked like maybe he was wearing prostheses and they animated the prostheses in post production or something. But you could see the actor's eyes through the mask, and I kept thinking, I kept guessing. I didn't know it was the actor that plays Tormund from Game of Thrones, but I was just like, it seems familiar. I think I know this person from somewhere. And that's a hard thing to do when you completely CGI the character.
Yeah.
So I mean, massive props. The same goes for all the other villains. I think maybe it was just the flying um basilisk. I don't know if that was what that creature was called. It made a little appearance. I think at the end of episode.
Brookser. It was called a Brookser.
No, not the Brooksummit, the big black flying dragon that comes out of the
Oh,
monolith in
later,
one of the
later. Okay.
episodes.
I thought you meant like with
Oh, mate.
Nervellen. Yeah.
Oh my, with Nivellen, the Bruxa was amazingly portrayed by the actress who got I don't remember her name, but like she did a fantastic job. Like her movements, her general demeanor was so creepy. I actually got flashbacks to Van Helsing. She kind of reminded me a little bit of movements of Dracula's Brides from that movie. Like it had a very Dracula-esque aesthetic, well, Van Helsing-esque aesthetic, I should say. Van Helsing from 2004 with Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale. Um, you know, a decent movie to watch. It's a fun popcorn flick, a guilty pleasure, if you will. But yeah, mate, like some of the the villains that they designed through CG in this was absolutely spot on. I think maybe at the end they were a little stretched with the final battle of season two and the Witcher's Keep. Maybe some of that wasn't the best CGI in the series, a little bit on the weaker side. But I think
Yeah, I
uh,
didn't get that impression. I thought it was pretty good still.
yeah, I
Um,
mean I think one of the also the other great animated villains that they made this season was the Leshy, especially Eskel, one of the other Witchers, who gets infected by this like tree-like creature in the forest. He claims he's killed the Leshy. Well, he claims he's severely injured the Leshy and hasn't taken any damage from the fight when we first see him, but he's actually been stung by the Leshy and he's hiding the wound. He's infected and he turns into one of the Leshy's like minions, if you will. And there's a great fight sequence with him, and it's exceedingly well animated. So I mean,
yeah,
Witcher
and
CG.
that is, I think, is a mixture of CGI and prosthesis, prosthetics.
Prosthetics, you think so?
Yeah, because I did see some behind the scenes footage where they're
Oh
putting makeup
wow.
on him, to his face. So that's definitely a mix there, which I
Practical
imagine they
effects,
did. Yeah,
yeah.
probably they did the same thing with
With
the
Nivellen.
boar. Yeah, with
Yeah.
the Novellin thing. One thing to add for Novellin, getting beyond the CGI aspect, during that episode, they had an overall theme where they talked about, which is actually supposedly a theme that gets brought up quite often in the Witcher books, is
Mm.
this idea that who is the real monster,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that was very interesting because we always assume, superficially, all these ugly, whatever, flying around creatures, they're the real monsters.
Mhm.
But what they bring up is maybe, or maybe not, maybe, as in the episode, series starts to question, am I a monster?
Right.
Will Gerald come after me?
Right,
um
right.
so that's
Because
a very deep and interesting theme to
because
consider.
the Bruxa, after she gets beheaded, she says that to Siri, or maybe Siri imagines it. She says to her, "He's gonna come for you," which I think is a
Yeah.
bit of foreshadowing for maybe season three or beyond. Um, yeah, I think that's one of the good things about The Witcher is this like it's a different take on all the classical storylines because this thing was very Beauty and the Beast with the in the pilot episode with Nivellen and the Brooks, kind of like this really dark take on Beauty and the Beast, which is kind of bizarre because technically both of them are actually beasts. But yeah, it's a great point you bring up, Matt. Like fantastic writing, fantastic imagination from the author to to kind of put different perspectives on widely accepted tales. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it plays well to creating sort of a unique universe in which The Witcher exists. Because one of the things I find like it becomes tiresome to watch a lot of this fantasy drama or fantasy like magical TV series and stuff is all the themes are kind of like regenerated, like you have the King like the Arthurian tales kind of mold, a hero will rise and pull out a sword or an artifact of great power, blah blah blah. And it's kind of like, okay, I've heard this. Or it's the Lord of the Rings format,
Yeah. Yeah,
make a
there's
team, yeah,
there's not a lot of
originality.
originality and
There you go.
fantasy, unfortunately. But the Witcher seems to be
Hmm.
one where, they're looking at different angles. It's not the whole, repeating the same ideas all over again, which I really like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's got its own, it's holding its own very well against all the great things that have come before it, you know. And I think it's also to do with the format, mate. Like if it was a movie, maybe it would not have been, it wouldn't have been as well received as the show, because you know, with the show you get a little bit more time to tell your story, you get time to do things a little bit better. Maybe you don't have the budget of a big blockbuster fantasy movie, but we've seen, you know, big blockbuster fantasy movies fail miserably, and there's like no end to the line. But yeah, I like the universe in which The Witcher exists. It seems fresh, you know. It doesn't seem the road of, you know, the road more traveled, such as it were. So that's kind of cool about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about what did you think about the Kier Morin scenes?
Oh,
So,
mate, yeah.
so just to set it up, uh, Gerald, or is it Gerald or Gerald?
Geralt, Geralt
Gerald,
of Rivia.
Gerald. Okay, true. Noob fans here. Um, yeah, so Gerald takes Ciri to Kier Morin, which is the main keep, or
Mhm.
you know
The
what is it,
Witcher's hideout, basically.
hideout
Yeah.
for witchers, where all the other witchers are. And this is where we first see Vesemir, who is Gerald's kind of master, or
Mentor.
overseer,
Yeah.
or mentor. And this is where Ciri starts her training, where Geralt decides to train her, to make her defend herself. And this is where she starts to learn from him.
Hmm.
So yeah, what did you think about that entire setup, and that scene?
Well, again, like it just seems like a very natural way to go about it. Like, yeah, okay, you have this young ward, she's coming into her power, you're not sure what power she has, and you're sort of her default guardian. So obviously you wouldn't, you know, take her on the road with you. You'd find a place to lie low for a bit, you know, and like
Yeah, and
recover. Yeah.
to add to this, so again, I was doing a bit of research, and so Kier Morin apparently was destroyed. So you see it all like dilapidated, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you read the books or whatever, you find out that witchers are becoming increasingly rare, and the
Mhm.
rest of the populace doesn't like witchers. They really hate them. So
For some
what?
reason, yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of monsters left to hunt, and witchers have earned this bad reputation. So what ends up happening is that there's like this riot, massive riot. Then they go, like, townsfolk, etc., go attack Kaer Morhen and destroy
Mhm.
it, and that's why it's all in this dilapidated state. And it's
Yeah.
actually very hard to find. So if you read the books, it's apparently very hard to actually make your way there. There is
Right.
no actually roads or whatever that lead up to it. So that's why it becomes kind of this perfect hiding spot, because
Interesting.
not a lot of people even know where the Witchers have their main hideout, or
Mhm.
main gathering ground. So that's why it kind of becomes a perfect place to take Ciri, who is being hunted by everything, right?
Yeah. And I kind of read that apparently there was sort of like a bridging anime movie or series. I think it was a movie between seasons one and two, which might actually also be on Netflix. I forget what it's called,
Yeah,
but that, I think that explains what went on with Vesemir and how he came to train Geralt and what happened at Kaer Morhen.
yeah, you're right.
Is
Yeah, they
yeah,
show that. Apparently, yeah, I think that's where they kind of show what happened with Kier Moran, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken. And yeah, we definitely got to watch that, because
Yeah,
neither
I
of us
didn't
have.
know about it
Yeah,
until like, yeah, until recently after I finished the series, and you know, there was a talk of spin-offs. So I came to know about it through
yeah, I'm
spin-off anime.
definitely craving more Witcher content.
Oh
So
yeah.
I will be checking that out for sure.
Mate, it's I think it's good stuff, you know. Like I love me a good sword and magic and horses and castles, world. And yeah, we've just been very, very lucky to have a few good offerings over the years, and I think Witcher definitely belongs in the better of the two categories, which has given us some good moments. And I think season two of The Witcher actually delivered a lot of a lot of good moments in comparison to season one, because I kind of felt like season one was kind of hit and miss. If you're easygoing, or maybe you're a fan of the franchise, it's better for, it makes for better viewing. But if you're like serious and you want to sink your teeth into something for the long run, and if you don't know anything about it, but you plan to get into it later, it's a bit of a hard sell. But I mean, I think they did a great job with season two. Like, shot where I think they shot this mostly in the UK. Fantastic, like on location shooting, CGI not overdone, like right on point. Um, Good storylines, mate. Like, I thought the conclusion of what it is that Voltaith Me or Deathless Mother is after was kind of cool, like,
Yeah.
so her thing, eventually it turns out that she was imprisoned by Witchers, um, and she's seeking revenge against said Witchers. Now, I'm not sure why the Witchers kind of imprisoned her. Maybe
Well,
something was
she's a
explained in this
monster.
anime.
Well, she's
Well,
a monster,
but
and
the Witcher series is teaching us not to take monsters at face value. So I'm kind of curious to watch the anime and maybe see,
yeah,
what it
but
was. Yeah.
the way I would push back is I don't think the Witchers see it the same way. They're just like,
I,
I see a monster and I want to go after it.
yeah, but you got to stop pushing back so much today. Like, Jesus, hell, man.
And that's what I do.
Just just aggro. But yeah, I kind of dug the whole thing, where in the end it's not like, because her whole motive was kind of kept um very shrouded in mystery up until like the last couple of episodes, which I thought was very intriguing, because like Fringilla's given in. So spoiler alert, Fringilla actually sells out to Deathless Mother, as does Francesca. Um and in the end, it all turns out to be a huge trick, because they all get what they want for, and Yennefer is actually struggling to make the choice. She's on the verge of, she can taste the chaos, like she's within fingertips reach, and she's deciding whether or not to make the deal. And the deal is basically she has to bring Ciri to Voltaith Mare. And so, will she betray Geralt? Because she actually tricks Geralt and takes Ciri in for herself, and tries to deliver Ciri to Deathless Mother to kind of, win back her power. So it's really interesting seeing. For me, I think that was way more interesting than the Ciri training part. Like, yeah, there were some good moments in there where we see Ciri learning to be a bit of a badass, but I think the far more intriguing part of this whole season was the Deathless Mother angle for me. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean that's the main baddie, right? So that makes sense. What did you
Yeah.
think about so they actually threw in a kind of a curveball, which apparently exists in the books, is
Hmm.
they had this it was barely mentioned, this love triangle thing happening with Triss. Triss, by the way, let's just set up who Triss is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Triss is like a mage that shows up at Kaer Morhen to help train um, uh, Siri.
Siri, yeah.
Yeah, so to get her inner chaos going. And in the midst of that, and she was also one of the mages that helped fight at the end of season one in the battle.
Hmm.
And so she's all kind of she has all these scars on her body,
Yeah.
and she has this one moment where she's like, asking
Oh
for
yeah.
Geralt to comfort her, etc.
She
So
comes on to
apparently,
him. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So and apparently this is a thing in the books where they have this love triangle thing happening. So
Ah.
we'll probably see more of it in season three. What do you think? Is this an angle that you want to see developed, or is this was a like meh?
I'm very meh about this. Like, I'm okay with male and female leads. Like, if it's a good solid story, I think realism definitely helps. And like there's just been too much pressure on trying to make you know, couples or items happen in movies and TV and cinema. And I'm just like, it doesn't feel natural sometimes. Like if you have it happen as it were, okay, sure, I can believe it, in certain instances, but does it always need to exist is my thing. And like, come on, okay, we all know sex sells. Like, you put, some gratuitous skin bearing scenes in Game of Thrones and the whole world is suddenly talking. I get it. I get that that's how money is made, and it is what it is. But I'm okay with not seeing this love triangle. I'm okay with Geralt just having, one love interest in the whole will they, won't they. That's fine. Love triangles, mate, like leave it to, Jane Austen and I don't know, mate, all the rom-coms and stuff, because I am not ready to see, Bride of or Bridesmaid of Wengenberg or some bullshit like that in my Geralt of Rivia series. Like, come on.
Okay, we have the Grinch over here, ruining Christmas. No, yeah.
Well, you
Holidays.
you obviously want to see this because
No.
so
No,
who is
don't
it,
put.
mate? Like, no, who? Okay, stop it. Who are you turning down? Are you turning down Triss or are you turning down
No,
Yennefer?
I mean, don't
Like,
put words into my mouth. First of all, I'm not saying I want to see this. I'm just
okay,
saying, if it's done properly, etc., and if it's part of the, to me, let's stay honest to the source material. If it's in the books and it was done properly, then yeah, sure, go for it. But I do see where you're coming from. I generally think it can become cheesy
that's it. Yeah,
and detracts from the rest of the storyline. But maybe it's done properly in the books. I don't know. That's why I kind of brought it up. It's like, okay, this is something that I think comes from the books, if I'm not mistaken. And if they do it properly, then yeah, let's see it. But generally, it's a hard thing to pull off correctly,
yeah.
right?
I mean, but it's very straightforward. Obviously, we can see Yennefer and Geralt have a very antagonizing relationship. Like their energy is very antagonizing. Like they challenge each other, whereas Triss and Geralt are way more zen and peaceful. Like if they were ever to become an item, I don't know if they do in the books, but because Triss is nicer. She's not really, doesn't seem to be after power, doesn't have ulterior motives, whereas Yennefer is like kind of ruthless. Like I have to say, actually, I really enjoyed Yennefer's like switch to this more ruthless character, because we didn't see a lot of her like weaker side in season 2. It was just more like her doing whatever it takes to get power back, and like again, she was a bit of a badass, and I love that drive from her, where it's just like she's just like, fuck this, fuck that, this is fuckery. Marked out really hard to that stuff. I'm like, because like, I don't know, fuckery is a word JP and I throw around all the time. I think we heard it in the movie Spy back a few years ago, and it cracked
Yeah.
me up for months, and it kind of became part of our lexicon. So I was just, yeah, I marked out hard for that moment. I don't know if you remember it. She says
Oh
it.
yeah, I definitely remember it. It was hilarious. I can stop laughing.
Yep, yep. But yeah, mate, like so eventually I think it's really cool that the Witchers figure out that um so we also get a possession angle in this, by the way. Deathless Mother takes control of she escapes her prison because she tricked these three women into deals that obviously were designed more to her means, because she manipulated events so the deals would work out in her favor. And eventually because of the pain and suffering those deals cause, or the collapsing of those deals cause, it ends up freeing her from her prison that the Witchers had made, the house on basilisk legs. And she possesses Ciri,
Yeah,
right?
so what the whole thing to understand with the Deathless Mother is her currency is fear. Like she
Mm,
gets stronger as there's more fear and suffering in the
right.
world. And what ends up happening is that Francesca's a child gets killed, right?
Well, she gets pregnant miraculously.
Well, yeah, she gets pregnant, but then when she gives birth, the child ends up getting murdered. right? And
by
that
whom we don't know,
yeah,
some massive
that
figure.
yeah, that's not revealed yet. So that gets
Yeah,
revealed at the end. We'll get to that. But that when Francesca's child dies, and then she goes on this massive genocide,
rampage. Yeah,
genocide, essentially killing off all the human children in her wake. That gives the power, or that really
right,
invigorates the deathless mother and gives her the fear and the anger and the suffering that she needs to be able to escape.
right, right. And I think there's a really cool scene with Fringilla's deal where she kind of poisons all the people opposing her, standing in her way between her and the power she or the position she of authority she craves, where she poisons them with I think nightshade. But I was kind of I thought it was a very cool scene. So basically, they drink the beer that's poisoned with nightshade at a feast, and they all kind of become statues, if that's a word, but like not stone statues. They just freeze in place, and she brutally, you know, stabs and like kills all of them. Um, really, really cold blooded. But I don't know, mate. Like I kind of felt like they could have done that scene a little bit better. I just felt like it was a little caricaturish, because I don't think like that's how Nightshade would like it wouldn't turn you into a statue. You haven't fucking looked at Medusa, right? Like
Yeah,
you
I
would
don't
have just
know.
become sort of like immobile and you could have
It was a
become
paralytic, right?
paralyzed.
Like they're paralyzed.
Yeah, but like natural paralytics don't like stop you in your motion because
Yeah, I mean,
he had these guys like statues around the table. It was kind of funny to me. I'm like, oh,
well,
I get
yeah.
what you're trying to do, but it's making me snicker a little bit. I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, maybe they should have had them fall to the ground or something. I don't know.
Or just yeah, become immobile. Because other than that, I think that was a great scene. I was like, oof, that's chilling, mate. That is absolutely like horrific.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I like the scene. I like the scene.
Yeah,
It was very cold-blooded and really
yeah,
showed the ambition that Frigilla had. And like
yeah. Oh, she
she was willing
wanted
to do
bad. Yeah.
anything to get the power that she wants.
But we get a good twist in the end of that scene as well, where Kahir, who has been sort of like presumed miss MIA after the Battle of Sodden, he resurfaces back. This is so wait, Fringilla. Where does he meet Fringilla? It's in Nilfgaard.
Yeah, so you're talking about he's the prisoner, right? So the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
mages and the North had him imprisoned,
yeah,
and stepping going back a bit, Yennefer when she comes back, so when Yennefer gets leaves Francesca and Frigilla, and they go on their separate paths.
yeah.
So Francesca and Frigilla come to go together, and they form an alliance. They go to what's the northern city that they captured? What's that called?
Uh Not a clue, mate.
Forgetting.
It's not Cynthia.
Yeah, Sintria. Yeah, so they go
Yeah,
back to Sintria, right? Um, and then Yennefer goes back to the Mage Order, and they suspect that she's actually a double agent, that she's betrayed them. And
yeah.
to prove her loyalty, they ask her to kill this guy. What's his name?
Kahir.
Kahir. So there's a whole scene where she's about to, execute him,
Execute him. Yeah,
but she decides not to, and she escapes with him. And then they escape, and then eventually they get separated on this boat or whatever. We should mention we also see the bard at that
yeah.
point. Let's talk about that
Gerald's
bard.
friend. Yeah.
Yasir, right?
Yaskir. Yes.
Yaskir. Man, these names are hard to remember.
But we're gonna get hammered in the comments
Yeah, I know.
for not getting
We're
these guys
noobs
right
here,
away.
man. We're noobs here. Cut us some
Just
slack.
steel yourself. Drink some
And
elixir.
yeah, oh, I've been drinking plenty of elixir here. My own kind. But yeah, so that's where he kind of escapes back to Frigilla and meets.
Nilfgaard, yeah.
They don't actually go back to Nilfgaard. So remember that Nilfgaard has taken over the Northern Kingdom, right? and
Yeah, one of the cities, I guess. You're right.
Ciri's hometown,
Yeah, yeah, Sintra,
Sintria.
Sintra,
So
whatever.
they are there. This whole thing is playing out in Sintria because Nilfgaard has overtaken it, and so he returns there and he regains his seat as like a captain in the army of Nilfgaard, and that's when they meet up and kind of start to
Yeah,
work
but
together.
he's kind of in the order. He's ahead in the pecking order of ahead of Fringilla. So Fringilla needs to get him out of the way,
I don't know
or
if that's made clear.
oh, it absolutely is. Weren't you watching?
I think I
They
was.
had like a lot of competition between those two in
Yeah,
season
I mean
one.
they're competing
Yeah,
very much so to gain the to gain an upper hand, I guess, or gain
right,
the approval of the emperor.
right,
But
right.
then in the end, they do end up forming this kind of pact,
Yeah,
right?
because like against all odds, she kind of spares him, which I thought, oh, this is Kahir's done for. Because Kahir was the Black Knight of season one that was chasing after Ciri, um, on instructions from the Emperor, I believe, or I don't know if that's made clear. I haven't watched series one in a long time, by the way. It's been like a couple of years, so forgive me for blacking out on details. But yeah, like I was actually, were you shocked that she let Kahir live in that sort of like coup attempt? Not coup, but like the cleaning house at the banquet with the poison nightshade beer. Were you shocked that
No, I mean, I think
you saw that comment?
there was some scene where they're kind of talking
Hmm.
and they're colluding, and
Yeah,
he does say that you need me or something like that, right? I'm
right.
forgetting now what that specific thing was,
Yeah, yeah,
but that I think that's why she lets him live.
right.
Um,
So
yeah.
yeah, she basically makes him her bitch because she says, okay, now when the Emir is gonna arrive in a couple of days, you're going to like sing my praises. If not, I'll poison you and just gut you like a fish again. And I think Kahir kind of understands, like, fucking hell, she's serious. Let's not fuck with her. So I thought that was a good turn for the Fringilla character because she's shown to just be at the cusp of greatness, but then she makes good on her promise to Voltaith Mir. But again, as we find out, the promise that Voltaith Mir told her, like if you do these steps, you'll get power, was a hollow one. Because in the end, when the Emperor does show up, surprise, surprise, who do we see, JP?
So it ends up being actually Ciri's father, her
Who
dad. So
was yeah, who was
who we
presumed dead.
who we thought was dead, but he's actually been alive all this time, and he's also one of the people that's after Ciri, and
And
he
he's
wants
not
his daughter
cursed
back.
anymore. And he's not cursed anymore because I think he was like cursed to be like a porcupine or
Pokemon. I
something.
think that curse was even gone, even when we see him in season one, right?
Yeah, it was lifted. Yeah,
Yeah. So it gets lifted in CS. I think what happens is Ciri's mother kisses him or something, and the curse gets lifted.
yeah. Another
Um,
like classic retelling, or not retelling, but another alternate take on classic, fairy tale, I guess.
yeah. So that was a good twist. So it'll be very interesting. I'm sure this will kind of continue in season three.
Mhm.
We'll see what happens with this character because he's obviously and so yeah, and the other thing that's revealed is that
Oh
he's the
yeah,
one. He's the one that ordered the killing of Francesca's child.
yeah.
So
We
Frigilla
don't know who
actually,
did the killing, but
yeah, we don't. I'm gonna assume it's some sort of henchman. They don't really say. Maybe
okay,
it's some main character. I don't know.
yeah.
But the thing to note is that Frigilla wanted to claim that as her own thing and claim it as this one thing that she did.
But
But it
yeah,
turns out he's the one that ordered it, so he catches her on that. Um, yeah, so that'll be an interesting thing to look into.
yeah, and he actually dismisses Fringilla and Kahir. Like they get, I think they get imprisoned at the end of his arrival. There's a lot of stuff that goes
Yeah,
down at the end of
yeah, I'm blanking
this
on that one.
season.
But yeah,
He has them ordered taken away. So that was Voltethmir's thing, that she knew like Fringilla would never get power because of who's pulling her strings, the Emir. And yeah,
yeah.
Fringilla and Kahir get imprisoned back to square one.
Yeah,
So again,
and
more suffering. Yeah.
yeah, more suffering. And on the other side, in the meanwhile, Ciri and the Witchers are fighting the Deathless Mother, right?
Well, they're
Voltymyr.
fighting a
They're fighting
possessed
Ciri,
Siri.
a possessed Ciri,
Yeah,
which is being possessed by the Deathless Mother
in the Witcher's in Kaer
and Kaer Morhen. And oh yeah, let's talk about the monoliths. We haven't really mentioned the monoliths, which play a big role.
Oh my God, yeah. I honestly, mate, you're gonna have to like refresh my memory on that because I have no recollection of like the monolith being a big part of season one. I think I
So
just
it's
must
not a
have
big
like
part, right? It's
okay,
very subtle. They subtly
okay.
show at the end of season one when Kafir is chasing Ciri, the Dark Knight,
Oh,
not
Kahir,
Batman.
the Dark Knight,
I'm gonna call him the Dark Knight,
the Black Knight.
the
Yeah,
Black Knight.
Kahir. Yeah.
So and then she screams, which is supposedly one of her powers, and she ends up destroying a monolith that's nearby. And so that's kind of like whatever. In season one, nobody really notices unless maybe you've read the books or something. I certainly didn't take much
Hmm.
note of that. But in season two, that becomes a big deal because we learn that supposedly through these monoliths, a bunch of monsters are coming through
Hmm.
some sort of portal, and they're after Ciri. So you'll see in one of the episodes that Geralt is fighting off these bunch of monsters that are directly targeting Ciri, and they continue to come through. And what you in the final fight scene, what ends up happening is that the tree, the Witcher tree,
Yeah.
actually engulfs a monolith within it. So the Deathless Mother actually reveals that, and she uses Ciri's power to destroy the monolith, and that opens up a gateway, a portal to let all these massive monsters out, and they start to fight. They start to help
Right.
the Deathless Mother fight the Witchers, which are in the room. Um, so we see all these what are they, basilisks come
Yeah,
out.
these like weird dinosaur type, like
Yeah,
T-Rex
and
type.
yeah, and you get one of those like Jurassic Park moments where you see the massive foot come down, the water
Yeah,
shaking.
yeah. But so it's basically implied that Geralt didn't know this, but Vesemir apparently did. That the Witchers were actually hiding the monolith behind the tree, and they were the ones who were kind of responsible for sending monsters out to further their own profits. If I'm
Yeah, I'm
reading
not
that
sure about
correctly.
that. I'm not sure. Maybe you're right. I'm not sure about that one.
Mhm.
The one thing to note is so we got to talk about the world that the Witcher lives in. It's called the continent,
Yeah.
and they go back and explain how the continent was even formed. There was this crashing of worlds where portals and voids were opened, and other between worlds, and entities from other worlds streamed in to this world, and that's how actually the humans came to the continent. So they weren't the first inhabitants, as we mentioned earlier. So
Hmm.
they came to to the continent when this event happened, and the crashing of worlds event. I'm forgetting the name of the event, and
Right.
with them came all these monsters. So that's how these monsters, again, they're not from this world. That's how they entered this world, and that's when the humans decided to form this Witcher system
Right.
to fight against these monsters.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very complicated. I mean, it definitely helps to understand it. We were kind of confused. I was kind of confused about this. I had to read up on it a bit, and
Yeah.
I'm not still sure that I fully understand it. I'm sure I made some mistakes, and yeah, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if somebody could give us like simplified like Cliff Notes version of what that was all about, because that's what I got out of it is that the the Witchers were kind of hiding a secret, and that's what Voltithmir Apart from getting revenge, that's what she wanted to expose. Because I kind of looked like Geralt was kind of shocked for a second when the monolith popped out. I know I was, because I was like, wait a second, why is there a monolith here? Because it doesn't make sense. And then I was like, huh, okay. Because the Witcher tree is very prominent during the course of this season. Like you'll see it almost as much as you would see a character, like multiple times. Really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's a prominent piece in their hallway, right? In
Yeah.
their main hall, and
Hmm.
that's kind of how they mourn for their lost brothers, because again, there's not
Yeah.
that many Witchers left, so that's one way to mourn for them.
So
Yeah, and
yeah, I mean,
so what ends up happening is that yeah, so these monsters come out, the Witchers fight back, they defeat the monsters, but in the end, what ends up happening is that Yennefer points out that hey, this is not helping. We're not going to defeat her this way because she strives. She gets stronger on fear and anger and all these
well,
emotions.
well, hang on, JP. No, it's not Yennefer, mate. It's Geralt who figures it
Is it
out
Geralt? Okay.
because Yennefer, not Yennefer. No, it is Yennefer. Yennefer gives Jaskier some kind of stone,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
about balance and stuff, and Jaskier sort of doesn't get the stone to Geralt, but Geralt sees the stone when it flies out of Jaskier's hand, and he kind of puts something together. And what Yennefer actually does is Yennefer actually offers up herself because Volteth Mir is she's kind of like a spirit. She needs a host to survive, like a host body to survive. So I think Yennefer actually offers herself up as the host.
yeah. The point being, stop fighting her. Just you got to take a different approach.
Hmm.
And yeah, she offers herself. She cuts her wrists, and she's like, "Yeah, take my body instead."
Yeah,
And
because that's what she saw in her vision in her initial encounter with the Deathless Mother in the pilot, and not in the pilot, but in the first episode.
yeah, the other thing I think we kind of glossed over, we forgot to mention, is that in while the Deathless Mother has overtaken Ciri, has kind of engulfed her. There's we
Oh
see
yeah,
Ciri in this like dreamlike world where she's gone back home, and her grandmothers are alive, and her protector is alive, and her parents are alive, and she's having this great grand party feast,
yeah.
which we actually see in season one.
Season one, that's right.
Yeah, and she's enjoying herself.
Yeah, so like Voltaire Mir has her plugged into this like dream state where everything is absolutely ideal and she doesn't need to worry about anything while the Deathless Mother takes
It's her
control of her
own
power.
it's her own version of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then while this is happening, Geralt is trying to get her out of this, and because the only way to get her back is she has to realize that hey, this is fake.
Right.
And then eventually that does happen, and you see like this Marvel like moment, end games type of moment where
Oh
everything
yeah.
like Thanos
The
moment
snap.
where the snap happens and they all get disintegrated into dust, except for Ciri's father, which is actually a giveaway, which actually I missed. Is a giveaway that he's still alive because everybody that's dead gets disintegrated.
Ah,
Right?
okay. I missed that too. Must have been subtle.
Yeah, it was very subtle. You see it for a second. I missed it when I was watching it, but then I was watching some review or something, and they pointed that out. Hey, this is an Easter egg you missed.
Ah,
And yeah, he doesn't disintegrate. He's still there. And then you find out that he's still alive. But that's how she kind of comes back. She realizes this is fake. She comes back, and I think they work together to. And then Siri opens a portal, and
right.
they go to this other world, and they take the Deathless
Yennefer.
Mother and Yennefer, who's
Yeah.
housing the Deathless Mother now, and they take her they actually take her to her home world, apparently, and that's
Right.
where she decides to leave Yennefer because that was her ultimate goal, that she wanted to return to her home world because she's not from this world, from the continent. So
Okay.
she's looking for a way to get back in, but she needs to embody some sort of host to get there. And yeah, so Siri opens up a portal and they go to this new world, and that's when the Deathless Mother escapes. And we also get to see what are they called? These horsemen,
Ah, the Wild
the
Hunt.
Wild Hunt. So that apparently is going to be a future baddie, a future
Well, next
antagonist.
season.
Yeah, maybe in the next season.
Yeah.
Supposedly they're a big deal.
It's kind of
Um,
like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, isn't it?
yeah, kind
Or
of.
the Wraiths from Lord of the Rings, something like that.
Yeah, very much in that mold. So, excited to see where they're going to take that.
Yeah.
Um,
And JP, just one thing that we didn't talk about this a lot because I think it kind of whizzed by so quickly, but we are introduced to a couple of other new characters. So I'm not sure if it's the Brotherhood, but there is this other faction. So we mentioned about 5 or 6 factions trying to get a hold of Siri, but there's this other faction, this like very shady fire mage faction, I would say, that's trying to also get a hold of Siri. They spring this, I think maybe this character was in season 1, I can't remember. It's this long-haired, skinny dude who's a fire mage. He's
yeah.
a well-known fire mage that's in prison. They spring him from prison and they kind of send him to collect Siri and bring him back to their quote unquote shady master, who is again just hinted upon. We never see him. That's one. And then there's a I think it's Nilfgaard. There's some Nilfgaard angle with this snow owl.
It's not
Um
Nilfgaard. I think that's in the
the
Northern
Northern Kingdom.
Kings.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I know what
Just
you're referring to. Yeah.
yeah, so we see this woman or this like I guess she's also a mage who can turn into an owl, influencing events behind the scenes, using one of her pawns who's very high up with the king, which is kind of interesting as well. And they allude to the bard paying his debt, which is a big foreshadowing line for Yaskir's character.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they're again. This is all set up for season 3. I think we'll
Yeah.
see more of
It's a lot
these.
going on.
Yeah, we're gonna see more of these machinations, behind the scenes machinations, this politics, kind of Game of Thrones style in season 3 is my expectation. So we'll get to learn. Again, it's not
Yeah.
all revealed, so I'm confused. I don't know because I haven't read the books and etc. Right?
Mhm.
So it's all interesting. We'll get to see who these characters are, what their true motivations are,
Mhm.
more, or get to learn
Yeah.
more about them more in the next season, which I can't wait for.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, mate, overall just been fantastic. Very, very entertaining and very intriguing season 2 of The Witcher. Just overall, I think they've gone up a tier in terms of their final product. Um, Good acting, very good general presentation, very good CGI, really nice, as you said, expansion of the lore and the world. Some good new characters being introduced, and yeah, mate, like you said, looking forward to the next series whenever that happens. I really hope they don't rush it though. Like, just take your time. I don't care if you don't release it in the next 6 months. Just keep the quality level high. Is you find that a theme with me and Doc JP over here is where we don't mind you taking your time, but release good content when you do.
Yeah, I have to fight. I mean, if I'm being honest, I have to fight myself because I'm like,
Yeah,
I really, really want to see the next season because you just finished it, right? You're
you're
in
in the
that
zone.
world,
Yeah,
so
man.
you desperately, as a fan, you desperately want to see the next season. But
Yeah,
I understand the movie making or the TV making process, and it takes time, diligence, research, um,
yeah,
experience to make these type of TV shows. So
yeah.
I'm more than willing to wait to get a quality output.
Yeah,
Um,
we don't want anything like Game of Thrones season 8 happening ever again, mate. Like,
oh God,
just
ugh, don't get me started there.
no, I'm just saying, like, I think that's what happens when you rush things, and you get or like the fucking Matrix movies when you get way too, you know, up the ass of your own product and think you can do no wrong and
Just
just release
ruins
everything quickly. No
it.
good.
Just it just ruins all your previous work, right?
Yep.
Like Game of Thrones is such a classic example. Like the
Oh my
first few
god.
seasons were so amazing, and then they rushed
Yeah.
it, and it kind of detracts from your previous work, which was so amazing.
Mate, I mean, isn't it possible? I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt. The amount of pain and suffering season 8 of fucking Game of Thrones caused. There's a Voltate's mirror that got liberated from her chicken hut somewhere in the
Yeah, no,
Slavic
maybe a
wilderness.
couple.
Yeah, and she's flying around, doing her thing. Like that was the amount of outpouring I felt after Game of Thrones season 8. I had like long ago decided like I'm not going to keep my expectations very high from Game of Thrones because like I thought they were coming out with the seasons and they were progressing far too quickly and they were going to catch up to the books in a matter of minutes. And I was just like, all right,
Well, you
it's
can't
going to
blame.
fall.
Yeah, I mean, like the books are also. I mean, I love quality, take your time stuff, but the
Yeah.
books are
Mate, they're
taking way too much time.
huge. Yeah.
Like it's been a decade since the last book came out, which is a bit too much in my estimation.
Mate,
Um,
somebody introduce George to a bloody espresso machine.
well, yeah, let's not get into that. I mean, like there, we could have a whole episode on why it's taking too long for the next Game of Thrones to come out.
Damn it, George, I need this.
Yeah, I know. I'm dying over here.
But yeah, mate. But good talk about The Witcher. So listeners, let us know in the comments or on our Twitter, which is I think at Divcast.
Yep,
JP, you remember it better than I do,
it's
mate.
at Diffcast. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, feel free to tweet at us and leave comments on YouTube and in the podcast forums where you get your podcasts. Let us know what you thought of The Witcher season 2, how it compared to the previous seasons. Any other thoughts you might have, any interesting
And
tidbits
tell
of
us
information.
where we were wrong, because I'm sure we made some mistakes here.
Oh, we're gonna get slaughtered about that
Yeah.
whole
No,
Cimbria
bring it.
thing, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's what the internet is about, right? So I want to hear it. But yeah, overall, loved it. Can't really complain. Can't wait for the next
Yeah, good
season.
stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, we're also going to try and be thematic for the next couple of movie reviews. So there's some interesting things lined up. Stay tuned to the Differential Podcast, and we will speak to you guys later. As always, I've been Mr. AB, and Doc JP has been here with me, mate. It was fun. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll catch you later.
All right, have a good one.